So this video is going to be our third video in our what I've called our floor relationship series of videos. Now, what we've looked at up to this point is getting up and down off the floor, and now we're going to look a little bit deeper into the subject of, well, what happens when we get down on the floor. So this is going to be a floor manoeuvres video. Rather than go over previous videos, which you can certainly look at, which are the standing and kneeling video and the rolling up and down off the floor video, let's just put ourselves firstly into a lunge position, a one knee down kneeling position. Now, let's go from a lunge position to a kneeling on both knees position. And if I just bring myself more around this way, if you just watch the balance of my weight, if I shift my weight over onto this knee here, it's very easy for me to slide that foot in and come back to a more centrally balanced position. So this is a fun one, just letting your weight rock over to one side and freeing up this leg and bringing it out. Usually when we tend to approach exercises, we always think in this symmetrical way, and let's get out of that. So I noticed myself even thinking, I've got to get that foot out, I've got to get this knee up, I've got to get everything straight. Let's get right out of that. Let's just fall over towards my support knee and let that knee slide in, and let my upper body go wherever it needs to. And same thing here, take my weight over and just let that leg. Now, I was doing this with a friend the other day, and that was commonly where the foot tended to land. It tended to be turned in a little bit, and the leg was a little bit straighter than, 90 degrees. And the upper body was tending to spiral a little bit, which is getting back to a natural movement pattern again. So just shifting weight and bringing things in. Just letting the upper body swing into it too, shifting weight, sliding that leg out. So let's go from a high kneeling position to a kneeling back onto our feet position, and let's just explore some different ways of doing that. By far the best way to approach this is to try yourself. My first way of getting down onto my haunches is I'm going to drop my head. I'm going to come down. Okay. I can do that. Let's keep my head forwards, and I can do that too. But that's actually easier coming up than it is coming down, which we find for the standing and kneeling too. It's usually easier coming up, believe it or not, than coming down. So let's compare having our head down and coming back, and head down and coming up, to head up and sticking our tailbone back and coming down. And what you probably find, you can certainly try this and see how you feel, but I find it easier having my upper chest open, my head resting back and leading with my tailbone. I tend to, from about that point there, just fall back. It requires almost no energy. Now, to come back up, as long as your weight is dropping forwards, you can try this. You can try this any way you like. As long as your weight is going to drop forward, your knees are going to tend to want to straighten. And now you reach a point here, and commonly what's going to happen is your head is probably going to lift and your tailbone is going to come back. But these are technicalities. Really, just play with coming down with this version seems to work extremely well for me, leading with the tailbone, and you tend to just fall back and coming forwards. Just as long as you get your weight coming forwards, your body tends to just do what it needs to do. Now, what's a real fun thing is, you might have noticed my knees were lifting there, and it's real fun just to catch that momentum. So let's look at what that looks like. So coming back down, letting the knees come up, and before I know it, that momentum has taken me back into that sort of backward spring recoil that we talked about before, where the spring in my body just wants to propel me forwards, and my arms are throwing themselves in there. I'm not even thinking of that too. So it's kind of a fun interaction. These body maneuver, these floor maneuver exercises are, you know, it's like the joy of childhood. If you want to have it now, whatever, any age, you can have it. You can have it, whether you were not a very on the floor orientated child because you were sat up in chairs too early. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You can get that enjoyment at any age. So just rocking back and rocking forwards, rocking back and rocking forwards. It's fun. It has energy, and that energy isn't really coming from you. It's just coming from gravity and that spring mechanism of the body, and it's quite an enlivening wave-like motion. So we've come from our lunge position to our high kneeling position to our haunches kneeling position. Let's see what we can do from here. Now, a nice little thing, you know, before we scoot off into anything too technical again, often when I get people into this position and I'm ready to tell them the next exercise, this is what they tend to do, and it's a spontaneous thing that happens to me as well. Often people just start to wriggle. It feels really nice, just wriggling like this. Now, there tends to be this wriggling, but also kind of this bouncing and rocking. This comes back to the video that we did on our body's natural organisation around gravity, where we're actually sitting cross-legged on a bolster. We don't need a bolster. We've done bolster work because it's a good interim set of exercises before getting directly onto the floor, but now we're working directly on the floor. So what we were doing in that video was we were sitting cross-legged, and we were just letting the body just let go into gravity. One way, and letting the spring mechanism of the body take it back the other way. So we can do that in this position, and that lovely rocking forwards and back as well that we covered before, which if you take it fully to its full extent will bring us all the way up and back again. So just letting, and if you remember later on in that video on the body's natural organisation around gravity, we did some head leaning movement. So all of this is available to us in this position. These movements that we cover, they're not just limited to, you know, cross leg or bolster. You know, a lot of them are applicable to many different positions, and the more variation, the more your body is going to free up and get used to coordinating, using the same principles, using gravity and the body's spring-like recovery mechanism, but just in different positions, bring up more and more of our body's capacity to adapt and move and conduct energy. So now, since doing that video on the natural organisation around gravity, I just wish that I had added in a little preliminary exercise to that, which would have been this. I was just doing it then. So just rocking like this before we got into the more slow version, which is also great, but just letting the neck run free and letting the body catch up in this more, I guess, again, it's more of a wave-like, or in this case, a kind of a spiraling, rotating motion. So, as a lead up to that video, perhaps this is a better starting point to that neck leading the body's feels so natural and releasing. You just have to be careful if you don't, if you're not used to letting your neck relax and move freely. You've got to be careful of two things, which is neck extension can be really quite a challenge if you haven't done it much. And secondly, particularly when you're rotating at this speed, you just got to worry of getting quite dizzy. And my recommendation, certainly if neck movement is new to you, just do it in small doses. By all means do this, but then stop. Stop, do something else, and if your neck isn't complaining after you've done it, by all means do it a little bit more. So now, the head is so interesting, it's so adaptable. Yes, it can act as a pilot, but it's so adaptable with staying focused on something. Our head will keep its position while our body moves. And I mean, that's fine, but the trouble is, we get lazy, and that's what we normally do. We might just be looking at the footpath, walking away, or looking off into the distance, walking. And if we need to move, we'll just move our whole body. So freeing the neck up like this is kind of, it's a novel movement for most people, because we, in everyday life, we don't have to move our necks, because it's not like there are things in the sky and things falling or anything that we in our everyday lives really need to pay attention to. Even jets going overhead is not a novelty anymore to us. It's not like, oh, that's what on earth is that thing? It's not like there's anything much going on up there that we that you usually demand our attention. So freeing up the neck, again, we talked about the importance of a free neck for the whole body being set free into a much wider range of movement, and also its tremendous importance in opening up this upper chest centre. If you've got a locked up neck, and particularly a forward tilting head, it's just going to collapse this. Now, when I do this, it kind of creates space for my upper chest to open, which is a main centre of the body that needs to be kept open, otherwise it has repercussions for hip movement and right down to affecting function of our feet. So we can go through all those exercises. Please check out the video on the organisation I'm going to. And again, we went into this kind of thing. So let's progress. We've gone from lunge position to high kneeling position to low kneeling. Let's just look at from low kneeling position, shifting our weight to one side and seeing if we can get that leg out. And again, to get that leg back in, we shift back into this support leg, and we swing it back in. And let's just play with that. Because the more you play with these things, the more freedom you have to interact with the floor, which is a pleasurable, immensely pleasurable experience for earthbound living beings. It's what we were born to interact with. And any interaction that is good for our bodies and is freeing our bodies of its limitations and restrictions, and isn't doing that too intensely, is going to feel relieving and pleasant and fun. So we can sort of build on our theme of just rocking into this. And if we can, building up a little bit of swinging momentum, which is a little bit difficult, but it's there. Just a little bit of momentum in there is gonna transmit that wave. We're always looking for our motion to be driven by those beautiful, connecting, stress-relieving waves. I should just cover one, a little bit more of an advanced movement, which we didn't cover from the lunge position. Now, I didn't bring this in initially because if your knees are a bit weak or challenged, this may be a little bit intense for them. But let's try it out if you've covered some of the ones that we've already tried and are feeling confident. So from a lunge position, if I want to bring my bottom back down onto that leg, it's actually quite difficult. There's a lot of load bearing going on there. And coming up is a little, again, usually coming up is a little bit easier. It's the coming down. There's load bearing going on. So let's see what we can do about that. Let's swing that back leg back across my midline and then come down. It's almost effortless. And just coming up basically the same way if we want to, just swing that leg back out again. So again, just trying to get some momentum with that. So swinging it in, coming down, and maybe lifting of the knee, and coming up. Coming down, and bouncing back up. It's just fun. I just can't describe it any other way. It's just fun. It's just fun to interact with the floor and feel our bodies just almost like getting closer and closer to just moving themselves without effort. Just relaxing back into those natural spring-like reactions that are all built in because our bodies are built like springs. It's quite fun. It's energy relieving. It's emotionally relieving. It's certainly very emotionally relieving to moving like this in straight lines. You know, all the emotional stress around moving the way that we normally do suddenly starts to be relieved when we stop moving like that and we start moving freely. It's not just physical relief, it's emotional relief from the restrictions and the hoarded tensions that we store in our bodies. So, same thing this side. That's it, lovely. So just letting this knee lift a little bit so we get that momentum, spring back, lovely. Okay, so where we were was from here, and we were swinging the legs. Now, with one leg out, we've had our weight always on this support leg. Let's shift our weight now onto this outward protruding leg. So let's shift our weight there and just sink the other leg out. And it's another fun one. So pick a leg, shift over to there, and bring this leg back. And if you want to hop up onto that foot, we just push down into that heel and up we go. If you want to hop off, push down into this heel, and we're down. So up, down, and up, shifting our weight over and bringing this leg back. Shifting our weight across, one leg out, shifting our weight to this leg, bringing this leg out. Choose a leg, bring this back. If you want to hop up on this foot, press down into this heel and up you come. Up, off. That side's a bit awkward. I have a knee injury from years back, so this is always my weakened knee. So, but this is going to hopefully, lost my balance, this is my weaker knee, but hopefully this is going to bring this knee back into connection with all these other working parts and be a natural rehab for that knee, because as always, a dysfunctional part of the body is a disconnected part of the body. So my knee is getting lots of exposure to having to coordinate with many other parts of my body in that action. So this is a good one for me to repeat. It's a really good one for me. That's so awkward for me because my whole life since my injury has been one of avoiding things that require any kind of input from this knee. And now I'm training it to come back into connection with all those support mechanisms that I've been withholding from it. That's right. Good, okay. So again, in this outward leg position, to confess this hasn't so much come from me, it's from watching other people. You put them in these new positions and they start to do these very interesting and beautifully childlike movements. So often I've got people into this position and again they just start going like this. So, and just because it's the nature of our bodies to play with any new sensation, with any new position, with any new interaction with our surroundings. It's our body's nature to do that, and we've always, since a very young age, been withheld from that and have been compartmentalised into, sitting within the confines of a chair and sitting with car pedals right in front of us and having to face forward and all these kinds of things in school. And so this is great. In fact, one of the women in my classes started to walk like this, which is kind of, it's all, and I'll tell you right now why I don't go into the spontaneous movement is because of this ridiculous knee injury of mine. Because when I'm moving like this, I can feel it saying, oh, just be careful there. But really, I mean, this is fine. That knee is under absolutely no threat of danger whatsoever. The sensation of fear that I'm feeling is that there is no connection through this whole section of my body, and my body is warning me, hey, we're not used to connecting yet. So it's not so much the knee injury, it's the whole, wait on, we don't know what we're doing here yet. You may hurt or damage yourself. So it's my body's fear reaction trying to maintain me, which is good. That fear reaction needs to be there. So we work with it, we respect it, and we just ease into it. And gradually over time that fear reaction withdraws, and we don't push through it with effort because that is suppression. Suppressing. We're dealing with a fearful, tense part of our body by compounding that tense and fearful situation with even more tension and aggression, I guess you could say. So we're not relieving the fear and the tension, we're compounding it. So just easing into these movements and just let that fear reaction just naturally in its own time withdraw gradually over time. That's it. Good. There's an exercise you might be familiar with where it's called rolling like a ball, and it's a very formal exercise, and you can tell by the way I'll demonstrate how formal it is, because it's head down, looking towards the tummy. Now there are variations on this, but the way I was taught is elbows out, hands on the flats of the lower shins and toes pointed down. And what we do is we rock backwards and forwards. Now most people, when they rock back, their back tends to open up like that and they hit a flat point and they sort of, they thud and they don't know how to come back up. If we disregard some of the formality of that exercise and we just let our arms move freely, our head move freely, our feet move freely, no rigid pointing of the toes, no rigidity whatsoever in the legs, and we just let our weight fall back and our weight come forwards, and let your arms just go wherever you like. I've seen people who've had tremendous problem with this formal exercise suddenly be able to feel much more free and easy with just by letting go and let the body do its thing. So you may or you may not find it's the case for you, but it's really worth playing with. And it's a much more fun, I'll tell you what. It's a much more fun way to roll around on the floor than be like this. You know, where's the fun in that? I don't feel any waves of energy or anything enlivening in doing in this really very controlled and tight posture. You know, with all this holding in of the core and things like this. So, but I do in this fashion, and particularly if, you know, generating momentum with the legs is just so freeing, and, you know, changing that up a little bit with legs. That is a beautiful interactive exercise, and it's me on the floor, baby. This is, I've got a lovely thing going on here with the floor. It's so reviving and enlivening. Lovely. Let's play with something here. So we've gone around in really quite roundabout fashions in terms of getting from a sitting or a lying or a kneeling position to standing up. I'll say no more and just watch. What a lovely movement, and all by just letting go. Letting momentum, let the body's natural organisation take over and propel the movement. How much more fun, and I guess in terms of fun, like, you know, looking at some possible reasons why the floor is so fun to interact with is because it's like a friend. If a friend is a catalyst for releasing hidden potentials within you and helps release them, we all know how great that feels. Well, this floor is my friend because that's exactly what it does for me. When I start to embrace the floor, I start to interact with it, and I start to let go into it, just like a good friend allows you to do and accepts you for who you are, not because you are conforming to any set prescribed and non-individual structure, but highly uniform structure to conform to. What sort of a friend is that? You know, you're not my friend until you can conform to everything that everybody else has to conform to, and you're certainly not allowed to let go, because the results of that will be catastrophic as far as our relationship will go. What sort of friendship is that? Okay, so anything that engenders freedom in our body, I think, is a friend to me, and I hope that you come to a similar experience through interacting more with the floor, getting rid of your chairs as much as possible, getting on the floor, experiencing the spring-like nature and the wave-like movement, the natural movement of your body, and the freedom of your body to expel these restrictions that have been placed on us in terms of conformity to how we hold our bodies, how we express with our bodies, how we move with our bodies, and how much we allow our bodies to take us where they want to take us. This journey that you can go on in this whole series of videos on this YouTube channel is all about your own personal journey of what's always been possible to you as a human being and has never been allowed. And it's one by one just jettisoning these prescribed limitations that certainly societally have been imposed on us, and we've largely never questioned, because a couple of reasons there. A strong herd mentality, there's nothing wrong with that, it's a very good survival mechanism, but the problem with herd mentalities is that the alphas in the herd start setting rules so that the herd is kind of more under their control rather than considerate of what your individual needs might require. And secondly, because there's a very strong punch reward system built into our system within our society from a very early age, you know, that certain behaviours are rewarded and others are not rewarded or even punished. And certainly freedom of expression of emotions and physical expression. I'm not talking about doing things unsafely, I'm talking about more of movement that is spontaneous, is not usually looked upon as a sign of strong character. Strong character in our society is usually registers in terms of composure and composure under pressure, rather than emotionally processing well and expressing release of tension under pressure. Such things as crying or speaking or making sounds to express the experiences that we go through under pressure. That isn't usually in our society a sign of someone who is of strong character. So please consider that there are other ways of releasing your true potential, and think of more of the natural way, the natural processes in which you learned and experienced life and explored life at an earlier age when those societal expectations weren't quite so strong.